I haven't seen anyone talk about this. It doesn't matter if you're trading Bitcoin or broad market ETFs or stocks. No one is talking about this. I just haven't seen anyone whatsoever. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. And it's not specifically Bitcoin, it does have to do with it. And it's the VIX. The VIX is incredibly low. The amount of volatility, which is what this tracks, is extremely low, and we haven't seen it spike in a while. Instead, we've seen it, create very large, like kind of somewhat of a value gap as it dips lower, allowing a lot of these, you know, assets to go up, and that's amazing. We want to see all these assets go up. It's always nice to see the broader market go up. But when it comes to trading opportunities, this is a very big one. Like we haven't seen the VIX this low in a while. Every time it comes down this low, it quickly, bounces back up. And this is setting up coincidentally, it's kind of weird in a good way how this is setting up, right? So if we look at this, right, before we jump into some other stuff, I'm going to also go over the S&P, but it's extremely low. We haven't seen any significant spikes yet. It's just it's down, right? Quite a bit. If you compare that to the S&P, and I'm going to be primarily talking about Bitcoin, but I'm going to still go over this either way because it's a really good indicator. I believe even yeah, I mean they're all kind of having the same pattern. They all have like this V-shaped recovery kind of thing, and right now the Dow Jones is at a previous swing high, a significant one. The 100 index, like it's all just in the S&P, it's all just riding higher, and there's really no reasonable like reason to say it's gonna come down just yet, besides two things, and that's short term premiums that eventually will have to balance itself out, in my opinion, and the VIX being extremely low. Like, I haven't seen anyone talk about this. And this is a very, very big sign of caution where, it's very important right now to position yourselves for any reasonable correction because, at this point, look at this, like the S&P, we're going to look at the S&P real quick. The S&P is up a lot short term. It's way above the 120 moving. It's just stretching up higher. The 120 or the RSI has been in the premium for quite a bit. We haven't seen it discounted in a while. And at the same time, we're creating like this crazy consistent uptrend, which can continue in the short term. I mean, the VIX still has a little bit more room to drop to push this higher, but we're so above, the 120 moving average. The RSI is extremely premium and it hasn't broken down. And at the same time, we're creating like even back here and previously, like we filled this right here. So like right here, we created like this value gap. This one didn't really get filled, but it's because it was still stretching higher. Like big value gap, price comes down, fills it in. We go up higher. Eventually, micro supports are tested. We go up higher, create another value gap. It gets filled, and we're going up again. And we created another, probably the most significant value gap. And the question is, are we going to see something like this, where the price comes down to try to go at the 120 moving average, and then allowing the VIX to have a breather, kind of pump up, causing this to fall, and before we go up higher? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, but really, I'm not saying that we need a short or anything right now. It's more important to wait for bearish confirmation of micro supports breaking and see if we're gonna continue to go lower. But like we're very overextended in the S&P. The VIX is very oversold. I mean, this is just super low, not oversold, just super low. It still has a little bit more room where it can continue to drop a little bit before pumping higher, but the downside pressure is very, very small compared to the upside pressure on the VIX. And that's going to also affect Bitcoin because we know that Bitcoin and S&P aren't 100% correlated. If the S&P falls, sometimes Bitcoin goes up. It doesn't always do that, but we've been seeing that happen enough, and it seems to be a trend that's going to happen more frequently as Bitcoin begins to separate itself from these traditional, the view of it is separates itself more from these traditional assets in tech. But right now, it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is creating these. I mean, we had a big like value gap right here, an imbalance that was filled very nicely. And then ever since then, we've just been pushing higher, consolidate, push higher, consolidate, push higher, and consolidate. We haven't seen any of these, you know, imbalances, any value gaps being filled whatsoever. And now, like, we're very overextended in the short term without having a proper correction. And we're still keeping track of this area. I've been talking about this in a lot of videos, but now, besides still trying to capture any small, pumps up, any continuation of a rally, or even if we come down to the 120 moving average, find support and continue higher, like it's completely fine to continue taking long positions with a reasonable position sizing, factoring in that we are very much premium and we haven't had a proper correction yet. So positioning yourself for your share, your exposure, with that, just sets yourself up properly, especially having this tight stop loss. It's kind of recommended right now and almost required or basically required in my opinion, to continue to take long positions if you decide to do so, in my opinion, but have a tight stop loss, with either micro supports. It can either be at the previous swing low, it can be at micro support like right here, 94.5K or whatever you want to put it. It's, SLs are extremely important right now, and to protect yourself from eventually the VIX pumping up and us having a proper correction before we can go much higher into incredible new all-time highs. But again, the point I'm trying to make is that so many markets, like pretty much about just about everything, is very overbought premium in the short term, and the VIX is very low. And the moment the VIX decides to pump, it can be. I mean, we have some important economic events in the U.S. happening, I believe this week. We have a lot of stuff coming up soon, and what it looks like at the moment is that, like, not just in S&P and the Nasdaq and Bitcoin, where everything keeps going up. There's a lot of optimism in the market right now, and then it's kind of another thing where it's like a rally up to optimistic, uh, expected news events. It comes out, and then all of the earlier buyers and the S&P or Bitcoin, where a lot of the earlier buyers are waiting for their liquidity to exit, and then once all the liquidity has been building up within this rally, once they have their exit executed, then we can easily see the price come down. We can see the VIX go up, and it's just again, liquidity at higher prices just allows the earlier buyers to get out, and once they get out, and some red starts to show on the charts when all of that volume exits, you're gonna start seeing a lot of short term traders panic sell as well, and that creates a little bit more of a fear based. And right now, I believe the overall broader market in greed and fear index it's pretty in the green, to be honest, and eventually it'll have to come down and just continue the cycle, and then that would allow the VIX to go up. It'll cause Bitcoin to go down, prevent us with a really good opportunity to buy low at a really good support area that I've been talking about in so many videos, before we can go much higher. So yeah, guys, just keep this in mind that VIX is very low, and we can see this pump up anytime soon. It can even be potentially waiting for a lot of this liquidity to shift, a lot of this volume to shift once a lot of these broader, like, important US economic calendar events occur. And we're just in this moment where we VIX can go up and we can drop down super quick. So I'm just hoping, anyone I currently have a long position, short term long position in Bitcoin right now, because I'm still trying to capture any continuation of any further upside, with a tight stop loss, and I covered that in the last video as well. But I understand, and that's why I'm taking small positions with these trades, because at any point, we're gonna drop down, the VIX is gonna pump up, and we're gonna see some red, and that's really where you're gonna start seeing a lot of these last minute buyers starts to freak out when a lot of the larger volume liquidity begins to exit the market, for the short term, right? So yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one.